Hello and welcome to the Inquisitorial Archive. My name is Kevin O'Rourke and today I'm going to be reviewing Tome of Blood for Black Crusade, published by Fantasy Flight Games. Tome of Blood, much like Tome of Fate, is a book that focuses mainly on things aligned with one god, but there's a lot of general online useful information. The first couple of sections are different things about Khorne and his various followers. It's not exactly groundbreaking, but obviously they want to put more information about Khorne for people, and it's not a bad read. It's just if you've been playing the 40k games for years, you know what to expect there, but I suppose they kind of felt that they had to put something at the start. It's leaning a little bit high in the number of pages they've got there. It's in the 20s for that, which I'm not particularly keen on, but it's got a very similar layout to Tome of Fate. For example, you have 4 archetypes. 2 of them are aligned to Khorne, and 2 of them are unaligned. 2 of them are Chaos Space Marines, and 2 of them are mortal. These all start off at a higher level. You're going to know similarities as we go through the book to the other things. They have Khorne Berserkers is one of the ones. They're pretty cool. With the Khorne Berserkers, you have to be aligned to Khorne. You're starting off at a high enough level, but you don't have to be a World Eater. Although they have a big section talking about World Eaters and role-playing World Eater, you can be from one of the other legions because Khorne welcomes all. As well as you don't even have to be a Legionnaire because they do have the options. You could have Ancient Wire, or you can have Betrayer and Enemy Inquisition. So if you want to have a Renegade White Scar who's recently gone, well, not necessarily, well, but in, like, he could only have gone for the last few years, but he's been powering ahead in skill and abilities. Definitely could work. Their abilities are quite cool. One of them I like is that if they can make a test once per combat, and after they make a full move, so a full move or a run or something like that, enemies get a negative to try and shoot them, because you don't want to really attract attention to this guy as much as you don't want to necessarily hit him. So it's cool for if you save it for the moments where you're charging the enemy's battle lines, that kind of thing, suicidal stuff, which you really like the idea for the Berserker, but it's very dangerous. If you use it right, it could really help you pull off those abilities. Next, they have the Night Lord Chaos Space Marines. These guys are unaligned, once more, quite high level starting off. Their abilities, they get 2 special abilities. There's 2 special abilities for Khorne. The other one just helps you ignore some minor criticals, things like that. Just negative effects, you can try and ignore them. You get an ability with the Night Lords where enemies get additional penalties to try and see you, and etc. in low light conditions, which is pretty cool. Suits with they're more stealthy than the average Chaos Space Marine. Not as stealthy, as Raven Guard or anything, but they're a lot more they're a lot better at it than the average Space Marine or Chaos Space Marine. The second ability is pretty cool, where with enough time to set up, they can make themselves and their allies cause fear. Up to fear 4, at a exchange for 2 infantry points for each one of the fear rating. And as I said, you need time to set this up, which is pretty cool because they are about the kind of preparation, setting this stuff up, and then just putting on one hell of a horrible evil show. The first of the mortal characters is there's a Runt Frostfather. These start aligned to a god. Once more, you're starting at high level. All of the archetypes starting at high level. Because the Runt is mentioned in the main book, they talk more about it here in this book. But they're pretty cool. The Frostfathers are these guys who, and they all worship Baftar, which is their name for Khorne on their homeworld on Zorunt. But during the winter, effectively people hunker down around these big statues of Baftar for the winter. However, some warlords continue fighting through the winter, and they are known as Frostfathers. You end up with a very, very scary character with these guys. However, their abilities, you've got a cool little drawback with them, that they have to regularly kill people who are quite challenging. A low-level guy won't do it. They have to be someone who has at least a weapon skill of half of what the Frostfather has. So you can't just be, you have to constantly seek, worthy skulls for Baftar, for Khorne. The next one is an online one called the Chem Hunter of Messia, another one which is detailed more in this book, but is mentioned briefly in the main book. Of the 2 of the mortal ones, I quite liked, actually, including the Tome of Fate ones, of the additional mortal archetypes we're saying, I have to say I like the Chem Hunters of Messia the most. Because, well, to put it bluntly, they've got a very interesting different focus to go with it. They're all about using combat drugs mechanically. You get additional bonuses for using combat drugs, because your character has to use copious quantities to take effect. However, you get great benefits out of it, but you get additional penalties for trying to resist becoming to resist trying to become addicted to these drugs. So your character can very quickly become addicted to multiple drugs, as well as this, they also have an ability where they can take multiple, or where they can take this own special type of drug they have in their homeworld. Anyone else tries to take it, they make a test. If they succeed, they're okay. If they fail, they take damage. Nobody else ever gets a benefit. They get unnatural traits, strength and toughness 1 each, which is pretty cool. It's kind of cool to see. Like, that's something quite different, because a lot of times I see PCs are quite wary of combat drugs. I know I am in the games, because they usually have the negative penalties. But it's kind of cool. It seems pretty balanced and and very unique to the Screaming Vortex. Obviously, the Frost Fathers are cool too, but I just think it wasn't something I expected. These hunters of chem hunters of Messia. The next section we start moving into weapons. They put in rules for combi weapons, which I have a player in my game currently using, and they work out pretty well. He's got a Slayer limb, so his combi Melta, he never has to reload it because it's a Slayer limb, so it's attached to his arm the whole time. So he's having great fun with that. But there's some interesting odd things like a boiler cannon and stuff where you're spraying people with steam and things. The melee weapons section is a lot more thought out than the main section. I have 2 big favourites in it. One so far is the blade hands, which are from Curse, where they have lots of pit fights going on, where obviously some of these guys have seen Dark Elder Agonizers, and they've tried to make facsimiles of these just from seeing them, that they've made, Edward Scissorhand kind of type hands. So I think that's actually pretty cool. They're nowhere near as deadly. One of the other cool things they have is the Bone Crusher Mace, which is a huge mace, where it's got the special ability where if you make an all-out attack, instead of getting plus 30 to hit, you only get a plus 10, but you can try and hit everyone around you because you swing at a really big wide arc, and it's a deadly weapon. It needs 2 hands. But if you're wearing Terminator armor with a Mortal or Legion, you can use it in one-handed, which is pretty cool. Some of the weapons are quite mad, like they have the Chain Hammer, which seems like a hammer, but they've got chain knives on one of the ends for the heads. It's kind of weird. I'm not sure everyone's going to like it in their games. They have a cool little side panel thing talking about rune weapons, which are basically weapons that were demon weapons, but the demon has gotten out. It goes into details, but most of the time these are, the weapons are destroyed and the demon gets out, or it's sometimes necessary to destroy the weapon. But it's kind of cool in that these, they're immune to the power field, and they have the the tainted and tearing qualities and stuff. Oh no, sorry. I think they do, yeah. But don't the detail there. But it's kind of cool to have these in the book. It's just a little odd idea, something you could throw in there. They have a big section on demon weapons and potentially demon trying to get out of more information, demons trying to get out of demon weapons, or even players trying to get the demons, if they want to try and get the demons out of the weapon. Perhaps they've haggled out some bargain with the demon that the demon might uphold. One of my favourite pictures, probably my second favourite picture in the book is this, which is a Reaper autocannon that has been possessed by a bloodletter. They have about 3 pages of demon weapons, which is pretty cool. Well, half of one of the pages taken up by the Unleashing the Beast thing for demons getting out. But it's kind of cool to have those options in case you don't want to just roll one up. You could just open up a book, go, yeah, I'm going to take this one. They've got like ones like the Dread Axe and stuff, which have been in the background for a while, that kind of thing. They also have additional bits of armor, like you have the Khorne crests and things like that, which are similar to what the Khorne Berserker models have on their heads, these mad headdress kind of type things, which gives you bonuses to Fellowship Deaths with Khorne 8 followers and things. They continue on with a lot of the special abilities they put into, a lot of the gear they put into these that are Khorne specific. They continue on the thing that they start in Tome of Fate of, to get a benefit from this, you have to be aligned to that god. It's like, okay, that's pretty cool. They've got 2 new force fields. One from the Infernal Star, which it's like a mockery of the Iron Halo, and the other one is to do with Messia, which is a huge force field that you put load onto a bike or something like that. It's pretty cool. It's designed for vehicles and things. You end up with a lot of equipment, like they've got Collar of Khorne. The equipment seems pretty okay. I haven't looked at every single piece of gear. I've just looked through it, but I've seen nothing I've seen so far. Because my players haven't really looked at this book terribly much. One was playing Berserker, but Nothing I've seen in the book has made me, you know, in the equipment section made me go, oh geez, I really don't, you know, I think that's way too powerful. I'm sure I'll find something eventually. They have some additional sample minions that you can have there. They're Khorne aligned. They have, just 2 pages they have rules for mounts, and then they start bringing in bikes and stuff, which is, if you just want to be doing light stuff with it, it's pretty cool. Haven't seen it in action yet, but looks solid enough for just going for a light approach with the stuff. I certainly have ideas for a guy running a Chaos Space and running a Legion bike, but they don't go too much into the mounted rules, but they have something there. They're actually introducing them. Next, one of the big sections of the book is on legacy weapons, which are touched on in the main book. These are a weapon like Carnivores Gore Child or Abin the Spoiler with the Talon of Horus. These are 2 examples they give. Though I dispute the Talon of Horus one, although it's a legacy weapon, he's got Demon Weapon as well. It doesn't really work out from their descriptions of how these things should work. You get additional bonuses to these weapons if they're a legacy weapon and you've elevated. You're so in tune with this weapon, it's got its own reputation and legend that it's almost as famous as you, or it might be more famous if you've taken it off someone and you've become attuned to it. Just the influences of warping these things, that your weapon could actually end up having a personality without being a demon weapon, anything like that. It's more resistant to breaking from sources like power fields if it doesn't already have the power field. They balance it out so you have to pay more if it's a force weapon or heavy weapon trying to make these things work. It has no special benefits outside of your hands, really. But in your hands, it can have these great benefits. You can't, if it's a melee weapon, you can't use other melee weapons. Or if you do, you have to make a test which the GM can modify, and you might lose your abilities. You might lose the abilities with the legacy weapon, which would suck. Or the same thing with range weapons. You can only ever have 1 legacy weapon. So you can have a legacy bow pistol, legacy chainsword. Doesn't work like that. It seems to be powerful. I haven't seen it in action. I had started my most recent Black Crusade game before I got my hands on it. And it doesn't seem like something I'd like to introduce into the game midway through. But in future games, I'm definitely curious to see how it works out. I'm a little bit worried it might be too powerful, but it's not. It's something I definitely have to see first. It's kind of like they might be doing it. If they're doing it, they're doing quite well and be finely balanced. If it's bad, sorry, it could get very bad. I do like as well that they've got kind of groupings for these weapons, and they're almost more closely lined to certain gods. And it doesn't have to line up with your. I don't believe anyway. It has to line up with your alignment. So you could have a Khorne guy. It could be a Tzeentch weapon, but you can't have a Khorne guy wielding a weapon that's kind of loosely associated with Slaanesh. Doesn't work out like that. And they've got an alignment stuff. It's pretty cool. I definitely hope it works out to be balanced when we actually put into action. I'd love to hear back from anybody who's actually started implementing these, because they seem quite cool. That instead of constantly just having to go up getting through the gear, you start the game, you discuss over to GM, and you start with like your chainsword, and that's what you use, and it's pretty cool like that. And it's like, yeah, no, I'd love to see if that works out, because it seems like pretty cool thing. Rather than having to constantly go get new gear and constantly change stuff, it's like, no, you've got your chainsword, you love your chainsword, you've had it, you've fought on tearing it into Horus Heresy, and that'd be cool. They've got an expanded section on rites and rituals, including how to summon up a greater demon. Although it does have like, yeah, you need to, for very good reasons, GM, you know, you need to get the thumbs up from the GM, pretty much, to say, like, because you just ruin the game by if there was no non-mechanical requirement for, if there wasn't a mechanical requirement for you need GM submission, a player character could go off and make themselves focused in the direction of, yeah, I can just summon this thing, no problem. I've specifically designed for summoning greater demons. I'll just keep summoning him to do stuff. Although you'll rack up a hell of a lot of corruption points and probably get killed, even if you were trying to be quite good at it, if you kept doing it. They've got a section going into Horde rules, which in the section of Horde rules is, in my opinion, it is my favourite picture in the book. It doesn't have much to do with Horde rules, aside from it just goes on about Horde, human heretics and Hordes. They have a Khorne. They have a Khorne mortal pirate. He's got a grappling hook coming off one hand. He's got his what looks to be like some kind of cool cutlass. I just love that picture. It looks like something. It kind of looks more like War Machine or something, or maybe it might be more inclined with like Warhammer Fantasy kit. But having a 40k book is cool. They have additional Horde rules and traits in this book. A lot of them come up in the Death Watch book, Mark of the Xenos. However, that's a completely different line. You should not be looking up that stuff. And they've changed how some of them work, including how one ability called Spawn, which is more similar to using hordes of horrors. So it's a bit more random about how much damage they resist, kind of thing, rather than just having a clean cut, they only take half damage at all times. Like, I like it because it could get very unpredictable for the players going, Jesus, we're not doing any don't seem to be doing much damage at all, or it's other turns giving horrendous damage. It could work out quite cool. It makes things less predictable, and if a horde has Spawn, by and large, it's not meant to be a predictable enemy to fight. They have a big section for mass combat rules, using formations going off. It's a bit more closer in focus than the Battlefield Khorne's large scale combat. This is a bit more smaller scale, but it still allows you to do big battles in front of PCs to resolve them in a reasonable enough way without just resorting to let's do opposed command checks, because to be honest, that doesn't factor in your gear and stuff a lot of the time, or you must make a load of modifiers. All the PCs are going to help. If they're riding alongside information, everyone gets their infantry bonus, and they add it onto the combat skill rating of the unit. Plus they can make tests, weapon skill, ballistic skill, infantry or command, and degree of success will actually help the unit, but doesn't guarantee. So you can really start stacking modifiers working towards it. My players haven't got to the stage in my current Black Crusade game where we started using this, but I think it's only a few weeks off, depending on what way they go. And I have high hopes for that section in particular. Then the book starts going through various worlds that they touch on in the core book, and in the core book they usually got 3 or 4 paragraphs, but here they're getting 3 or 4 pages each, plus stats for some of the different guys like Baron and Asphodel. One world has Khorne, one world has Crusade in it, and one world has Orcs in it, and when their orbits come near each other, they launch off rockets and different things. They're going back and forth and attacking each other. It's in the Screaming Vortex, just addition worlds, the Screaming Vortex worlds, by and large, ones that are in the worlds in the Screaming Vortex that are Khorne lined, or not all of them are Khorne lined, but more details to help inspire you, get different things, which is pretty cool. It's nice to have actually more details there, including they have nice stats for a Bloodthirster and a named Demon Prince who's known to be active in the Screaming Vortex. I can't say I have any particular problem with any of stuff in the book. You don't need this stuff, but definitely there's a lot more stuff that you don't have to necessarily work on. The book ends up rounding out in an adventure called Red Dawn, which I haven't run yet, but it looks like it can be solid. It depends on the group you're using it with. I think some groups would suit more than others. Once more with Tome of Blood, I'd say kind of like Tome of Fate. You don't need it. I think Black Crusade is one of the 40k RPGs that stands on its own quite well, except for 1 or 2 areas, where it just kind of like in the book it actually points out, yeah, if you want to do space combat battles, it just kind of points you towards Rogue Trader and says they're over there. We're not putting them in this book. It'll take up too much space, which it does take up quite a bit of space. It's not necessary, but it has a lot of options and it's got a lot of cool bits and pieces. I really hope the legacy weapons work out being balanced. The mass combat rules look very nice, very enough detail to make them work. Not so much that I'm kind of worried that with the Battlefield Khorne's large scale combat rules that you could end up with 1 or 2 of the players could be really into it and working out with the GM, and a bunch of other players like, look, this is just too much numbers, too much crunch going into this, too boring, and if they're not interested, it's not going to work. It depends the game you're doing. But this one seems to strike a balance I'd prefer more myself, unless you're playing a specific type of game with specific type of characters. But I certainly think it's worth a look. If you're going that way, like if you don't like Khorne, you're obviously not going to like the book. You don't need any of the books outside the Black Crusade itself, but it's got stuff to offer. So if you have the money to spare, and anything I've told you about looks interesting, well, look into it. Have a look, whether borrow a copy off a friend, see if you do like it, or just go, if you've got loads of money, you can just go off and buy it. So this has been the Inquisitorial Archive. This is my review of Tome of Blood, and I look forward to seeing you again. Goodbye.